Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session for Tuesday, May 11th, 2021. It's 9:01 a.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards and Commissioner Carolina Mejia, as well as our County Manager Miro Chavez and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. Public can attend through our county YouTube channel on a live stream or archive basis, or through a conference line at 360-252-9020. The PIN is 1234. We're going to begin this morning with our standing COVID-19 update, item number 1 on the work session agenda. And I see our Director of Public Health, Shelley Slaughter. Go ahead, Shelley. Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today is day 461 of Thurston County's COVID-19 emergency response. To date in Washington State, there have been 415,705 confirmed cases of COVID-19 since this pandemic began, with 5,586 Washingtonians who have died. This includes 9,292 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Thurston County residents, with 301 of those new cases occurring in this last week. That does put us above 200 on the governor's risk assessment dashboard, with today that number being 202 over the last 2 weeks for our population size. We have also crossed another grim milestone in Thurston County this week, and that is that we have had 101 Thurston County residents that have lost their lives. This included 6 deaths that occurred in the last week. There have been 581 Thurston County residents that have been hospitalized due to complications of COVID-19 since this pandemic began, with 7 residents being hospitalized in the last week. Our regional hospital capacity continues to be stressed and very high. 89% of all beds in our region are occupied. 12% of those acute regular beds are occupied by COVID-19 patients currently, including 9 that are currently on ventilators. And 18.9% of ICU beds are occupied due to COVID-19 patients. Our test positivity rate is also high at 8%. We do have testing widely available in our community and strongly encourage anyone who's exposed to COVID-19 or may be experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 to get tested. We have community-based testing available today at Rochester Organization of Families, also known as ROOF, from 10 to 1, in the city of Lacey tomorrow from 10 to 1, at Union Gospel Mission on Thursday, and Evergreen State College on Friday. There are also many pharmacies and local health providers that offer free COVID-19 testing. In terms of outbreaks, we've had 55 congregate care outbreak settings to date, with 3 that our team is currently investigating this week. Switching gears to vaccinations, Thurston County has administered 218,724 doses. This is excellent. This is all approved providers in Thurston County. 42% of our Thurston County residents have initiated a first dose of COVID-19 vaccine, and 41% are now fully vaccinated. So this is excellent news. We do continue, however, to be concerned about decreased demands that we are seeing in people seeking vaccinations. We have lots of vaccines available in our community, lots of upcoming vaccine events each day this week in our community. People can also look on Vaccine Locator to find providers with available vaccine, as well as our Thurston County Public Health and Social Services website for links to all of our upcoming vaccine clinics and events. Most of our events do not require an appointment. People can come to the site at any time and be registered on site. Also, people with appointments may come to the clinic at any time during the day that they have an appointment in the event that they miss their exact appointment time. I do want to also share the news that the FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine for 12 to 17-year-olds yesterday. We are waiting further approvals this week from the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, the Western States Pact, and Washington State Department of Health before we can begin administering vaccines. We will be working with our local schools, pediatricians, and communities to increase vaccine availability for this population in anticipation of final approval in the coming week. And with that, I will pause there and ask if you have any questions.
Commissioner Mejia.
Yes, my first question is in regards to last week we had kind of an emergency concern because we had more vaccines than we needed to get them in. Is that something that we're facing this time around?
Thank you so much for mentioning that, Commissioner Mejia. Last week, you may recall, we put out an alert regarding excess Pfizer doses that we had on hand at Thurston County Public Health. I am happy to report we were able to expend all of those doses of the Pfizer vaccine, and we did not waste any doses. But we continue to be challenged by that due to this decreased demand. Supply that we received in the prior 2 weeks does have an expiration date. This week, we have an excess of Moderna. Thus, many of our clinics are offering Moderna doses, and followed by next week, we will face the same issue with Pfizer again. So this means that we reduce our ordering of vaccine and focus on expending the vaccine that we have on hand until either demand increases or we're able to expend all of those doses.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, sir. Could you give us the age of those individuals that died in Thurston County, or category of ages? Is that something that you have readily available, or could you get back to us?
Yes, we have that data, and it would take me a couple minutes to pull that up for you now. So, but I'm happy to report on that later, and perhaps at our Board of Health meeting this afternoon.
Okay. And could you give the public a good explanation of why someone needs to get vaccinated, even if they have had COVID-19 confirmed and have recovered?
Yes, at this time, COVID-19 vaccines are recommended even for those that did test positive for COVID-19. The reason for that is because we don't know how long the immunity may last after having a COVID-19 infection, and what that long-term protection might be. So it is encouraged as an added measure of protection to also get the COVID-19 vaccine.
I guess as a follow-up to that, do we know how long the vaccination gives protection?
We don't know yet. There are a lot of studies happening around that. Some people may have heard the possibility of there being boosters for vaccines coming forward in the future. We expect that that may be the case, but we don't know. Since this is a brand new vaccine with a very new virus and disease, we don't know yet.
And just maybe a final thing. I know you have children yourself, Shelley, but if one of your children had recovered from the known virus, they were tested and recovered from it, would you want your younger children to get a vaccination?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Anything, County Manager?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Let's move to item 2, homeless strategies update. And I think I saw Keely Marino. There she is.
All right, good morning. Kaylee Marino with Public Health and Social Services. So a few things today. Yesterday, we had a 4-hour meeting with the Regional Housing Council's funding work group where recommendations were presented to that work group from the technical review team. Those recommendations will be presented to the Regional Housing Council at the May meeting, which is May 26th from 4 to 5:30 p.m. I have put the link to that webpage in the chat for anybody who can access that. So that happened yesterday. So we're moving forward through that process. And then speaking of vaccination efforts, I've been working with the Olympia Free Clinic around encampments. And so just really neat stories. So that the Olympia Free Clinic has been going out with their volunteer nurses to Ensign Road for the past 3 weeks. The nurses have attended each time, each with wound care. They each carry a wound care kit. They're going out into the encampment nearby, the jungle, and up and down Ensign Road. And the wound care has been so needed that the nurses primarily have been attending to individuals that have much needed medical, like acute medical needs around wound care. And that has just been a service that the individuals living out there in the encampment and on Ensign Road have just been really happy and grateful for. And they've also been able to administer the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. They are continuing those efforts, and that crew will be moving on to the Deschutes encampment for the next 3 Wednesdays. And so they'll be bringing outreach workers and the same nurses. So those volunteer nurses will be attending and will be engaging with that community, both to encourage them to be vaccinated and also to address any needs they might have around wound care. So it's just been a really neat process to be a participant in. Myself, I try to attend every one of these sessions that they have, and they intend to move forward and similarly throughout the late spring and summer. So just a neat partnership. And then moving on to rental assistance from Community Action Council, they have, as of this week, approved 225 households applications. 333 households applications are in process, and they have 962 appointments in queue that are in process. So far, they have spent $1,406,000 approximately in rental assistance dollars, and in utility assistance, they've spent almost $20,000 to help folks in our county that need the help. And that equates to about 880 months of back rent that have been paid thus far. So not bad for the first 4 weeks of the program. And that's my report for today.
Questions for Keely? Commissioner Mejia?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
No, me neither. Thank you, Keely.
County manager. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Yeah, just not necessarily a question, but I believe, Kelly, I don't know if Tom is here. They will receive a notice this week that we're going to be receiving additional rental assistance through the state. And that is also going to be as a result, as part of the American Rescue Plan Act. So when we define the amount, we will bring that to the board to have a conversation again as to how that is going to be potentially distributed to those citizens in need. So additional help is coming.
Thanks for mentioning that, Ramiro.
Thank you. Brings us to item 3, which is a review of the draft agenda for this afternoon's Board of County Commissioners meeting. And let's see.
Commissioner, we've been having some issues accessing the agendas this morning, including the Board of Health. So we'll make the best out of providing you the information. The Tuesday, May 11th agenda is not quite complete. There is a proclamation this afternoon, and I'll walk you through when that time comes.
Okay, I'm not seeing the agenda. I have a copy, but it doesn't seem to be, it had been in my packet, but that's fine. The meeting will be called to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Mejia. We will consider approval of the agenda and board meeting minutes for May 4th. The public will have the opportunity to address the board, and we'll have county managers update.
Yes, I
Any
will,
issues there?
yeah, I will be following up to the comments that we received from a citizens a couple of weeks ago. And some of her comments was related to a lot of items she provided in terms of the Thurston County Jail, related to Medic One, as well as the bond the county has. So I will walk through the details on that this afternoon.
Okay. Any questions from the board on these items?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, very good. Then consent item, there's only one, which is the auditor's financial services voucher list approval. Any
Yeah.
questions or inquiries on that?
Before that, commissioners will, there's for your consideration a proclamation for you to consider having the Law Enforcement Week. So we have been working on drafting that proclamation. We'll circulate hopefully today, and we'll add that to the agenda. My apologies, something we didn't see that. It came to our attention that yesterday, so staff has been working on finalizing that proclamation. And I believe we have members of law enforcement community join us this afternoon for them to accept that proclamation. So.
Questions from the board on that?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Department items 4A, Bald Hills Fire District 17 annexation.
So this is a new item that you have. You didn't review this item. So let me give you a perspective and also as to why this item needs to be in the agenda today. And this is related to an annexation the Fire District 17 had last year. So what makes it a little bit interesting is why the board takes an action, particularly related to an annexation that already occurred. And the reason is because you allowed, as a result of this action, for the properties who have been annexed as a result of these annexations to be levied on the levies the fire district implement to the current district. So that's really the gist of it. So let me walk you through the history a little bit more in detail, and then we'll open up for questions. And Elizabeth is here to also answer any questions. The Thurston County Fire District number 3 is a municipal corporation, and a copy of the resolution is before you. And that is under Chapter 5202 of the RCW. The Fire District 17 received 2 petitions to annex 2 areas, also known as the Clearwood and Ball Hills, into their district. And that was signed by the owners within those properties 100%. So the Fire District commissioners on May 14, 2020, adopted resolutions accepting the annexation petitions and scheduling a public hearing at that time, and also submitted to the Boundary Review Board in accordance to RCW 520401. On June 11, 2020, the Fire District conducted the public hearing, and on September 11, 2020, the Boundary Review Board granted the annexation of those 2 areas, the Clearwood and Ball Hills. So fast forward to this point, I have to admit this is a brand new process, at least for me, because I have not been exposed that when an annexation occurs by a fire district, the board needs to take an action. But I understand the nexus in here, because the board needs to authorize those properties to be levied as a result of the district's levy proposals they have in place. And that is really the gist of this resolution. And if you see on your resolution, the action the board may take is just adopting the annexations, the areas included on this annexation, which the legal descriptions are attached to you. And that's the extent of it. Why this issue is before you today, because there's a sense of urgency, because there's fire commissioners that would like to file for an election, and the election deadline is coming up on May 14th. So my apologies to bring this item at the last minute. In case we want to be mindful of the Fire District 17. And again, for me, this is a brand new process, but certainly I understand what the nexus of the Board of County Commissioners have related to taking an action to accept those additional properties with these annexations to be levied by the Fire District number 17. So I will stop there for now, and if you have any questions, Elizabeth and myself are available.
Commissioner Mejia?
And my only question is, the residents signed 100% to this?
Yes. And the annexation was already approved by the Boundary Review Board last year.
Thank you.
So in a way, the board is not approving an annexation. The board is just allowing those properties that have already been annexed to be levied by the levies of the district.
Commissioner Edwards?
Does it actually say that in the resolution, that what we are doing and the intent of what we are doing?
Yeah, on the whereas, let me find the right whereas for you.
And maybe while you're looking at that, then my other question would be, is there a map provided? I see there's a lot of legal descriptions. I just didn't know if there was a map. And to Elizabeth, our legal counsel, is this 100%? This is unusual, let's just put it that way. So is this legal? 100%. You've reviewed it and we're good to go.
Yes, Commissioner. I actually took quite a bit of time reviewing it and collecting all the documents that led up to this action by you, because it was something that we have not dealt with in the recent past. So the fire district started this process by adopting their own resolution with the intent to, well, first of all, the owners that are subject to being annexed petitioned the fire district to ask to be annexed to the district. And when they filed that petition, they also acknowledged on the petition itself that they understand that they will be subject to the levies of the fire district, and were, accepted that. So after the petition came to the fire district filed a resolution of intent to annex. They had a public hearing, and they also filed their notice of intention with the Boundary Review Board, which they needed to do pursuant to statute. The Boundary Review Board had jurisdiction. No one commented on the intention to annex, and therefore by statute, the Boundary Review Board approved the annexation. Then after that step, the fire district adopted another resolution sending this to the Board of County Commissioners as required by statute. The other thing to notice is sometimes these annexations do go out to the affected property owners through an election process. But in this case, because 100% of the owners in the district filed the petition, that election was not necessary. And at this point, by statute, the Board of County Commissioners has to actually approve the annexation as well, which is the step that we're at today.
Okay, maybe just a follow-up on that then. The 100%, it states in the resolution, that makes me nervous, because if it's not 100%, say somebody steps forward, I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Somebody was coerced or something. So if it's not 100%, does that make it null and void, or just the mere fact that in excess of 60% would be valid?
Yes, it does not have to be 100%. It just needs to be 60% or more.
I don't know, I haven't had a chance to look this over, but is that a better legal explanation that the petition was filed within excess of 60% rather than 100%? 100% scares me. It's kind of like never and forever. So just a question. I don't want to muck things up, but I don't want to run into a pickle somewhere down the road where somebody challenges.
Commissioner Edwards, to answer your question, on the 7 whereas on the first page,
Okay.
let me read that for you. Whereas if the Boundary Review Board has had its jurisdiction invoked on the proposal, approves the proposal, the county legislative authority of the county within which such territory is located may, but not required to, exercise their authority granted under RCW 5204.011, parentheses 2, and require such an assumption of indebtedness by the owners of the properties to be annexed. And that is important.
Okay, those are all my only comments, and if everything's hunky-dory, I'm good with it.
And again, my apologies. It's not my intent to surprise the board in an item like this, but everything just came to this point, and we needed to be respectful, I believe, to the Fire District 17, since some of the fire commissioners may be filing for election, and that need to include this additional area. That needs to be filed to the auditor.
So I think Elizabeth said we are technically approving the annexation, not just the taxing authority for the property tax levy. Or, because Ramiro, you said that was already done. And then I thought I heard Elizabeth say that we have to formally approve the annexation.
In this particular case, I believe it's one of the same.
Okay. Well, it's not one and the same. I mean, one is, I could understand if there was a separate process by which the board allowed the taxation mechanisms to go into effect versus the annexation question. I want to make sure that it's clear what we're doing. I mean, the motion on the agenda says we're approving a resolution providing for annexation, as if it's not really done until we say it's done, versus providing for, a levy in accordance with a previously enacted annexation.
So, forgive me, my understanding of this whole process, again, is a brand new process, although this is not an excuse. But, and the section 1 of your recommended action on the resolution, you did take an action to annex those areas. And the result of that is those areas impacted by this additional area will be levied by the fire district.
Okay, and what happened? What are they annexed from? I mean, before they were part of this fire district, who responded to their fires? I don't understand how that works. This is way out in Southeast County, right?
Yeah, I don't know who had jurisdiction that responded to this area,
Okay.
absent the Fire District 17.
Do you know Commissioner Edwards?
I do not know the answer to that, but I do have a follow-up question on your question, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the action portion of 4A, should it read, move to approve a resolution providing for annexation to Bald Hills Fire District 17 as per 52.
Okay, add in the
Do
description.
you understand what I'm
Yeah, yeah.
getting at there?
Yeah, we'll add the description of Fire District 17.
Chair, do you understand that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it? I was on the wrong document.
Commissioner Edwards is asking for clarification on the action on your agenda. So
Yeah.
move to approve a resolution providing for annexations for Bald Hills Fire District 17.
Yeah,
Just add in that description.
that's
right.
fine.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, well, Annex 2, not 4, but
Yeah.
move to approve a resolution providing for annexation to
Yeah.
Bald Hills Fire District 7, because we're moving them from somewhere to somewhere. I'm just trying to clarify that.
Okay, and I caught a lot of typos on the resolution draft. I don't know if I can get them, I can route them to
Yeah,
Elizabeth. for her
yeah,
to
please
take
do.
that.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, anything else on this item?
No, sir.
Let's go to page 2, item 5, community planning and economic development, Puget Sound Partnership, Alliance for Healthy South Sound contract amendment.
Yeah, you did review this item last week, Commissioners. In this particular proposal for your consideration is to authorize a minor amendment with the agreement that we have with the Puget Sound Partnership for the Alliance for Healthy South Sound. And this it moves $3,900 from coordination and management task, which is task number 5. It moves it to make it more available funded to the subrecipients, and yet given a little more latitude as to how this money can be actually used for implementing those programs. You know, it seems to be a little bit of odd to bring this to you for $3,900, but our procurement policy requires that any changes on the tasks, when we have federal funds, we need to come to the board and ask you for your approval on this. Jennifer Davis is here to add additional information if you need it.
Questions for Jennifer?
I guess, yes, I have one.
Go ahead.
In the action, do we need to designate the 3,900? It is rather unusual, but, and I don't know how that works if we're to execute any subsequent amendments that do not increase the contract budget. I guess I thought that's what we were doing was.
No, it's just moving from one task to another. So we're not affecting the total bottom line of the contract.
Okay.
Commissioner Mejia, anything?
No, sir.
Okay, we're good, Jennifer, thank you. Item 5B is RIA 22 and 23 Chehalis Plan Addendum.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. You also reviewed this item last week. And it even goes back when staff was working on the water areas 22 and 23. And this is related to the Hearst decision. And this is the Hearst decision fix the legislature passed, and which established, I believe, 5 stream flow restoration areas in the county. The board approved back in November 2020, whereas 22-23, the Department of Ecology has agreed and approved those whereas, and for your considerations to take a formal action in approving this plan. Kaylee Nelson is here and available to answer additional questions.
Questions for Caitlin?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Caitlin, I got a question. Could you suggest to me, Chehalis plan seems a little confusing because it doesn't reference I don't know, can you suggest a word or a clarification to make that a little more clear to folks? There's a lot going on in the Chehalis Basin of different types of planning and stuff. Should we say watershed plan or SRA plan or something that might make that better? Or is that an important title because it's on the title of the document or something?
Well, the actual title is the Chehalis Watershed Management Plan Addendum, which is a little bit of a mouthful. You're suggesting something alternative to that?
Nope, I'd like to say Chehalis Management Watershed Plan Addendum.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Okay.
Ramiro, can we amend
Yes,
that for
we'll make those changes, Commissioner, yes.
Thank you. Okay, we're good to go. Item 6 is information technology, professional services agreements for ERP system.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. You also review those two items. And one is related for you to consider having an agreement with GFOA, and that is the Governance Finance Officers Association. We hired the services of GFOA to help us navigate and having put together the system needs analysis of the ERP system itself. That partnership was very fruitful. They walk us through the many different stakeholders, identify what is it that we need in order to go with that request for proposals, which we did that a couple of years ago. So the next item is related to that as well. So this proposal before you is for you to consider hiring the services of JFOA, again, to help us implement the ERP system itself. I believe you had some conversations with Robin and Dennis last week, and they're here and available to answer additional questions.
Okay, questions, Commissioner Mejia?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
I think there's a missing word under the action, like between association and $250,000. It just seems to be a grammar issue there. Maybe 4?
4, yeah, thank you. We'll add that.
Okay, Dennis, anything we need to know?
Good morning, Commissioners. No, I think we covered it pretty well. Like we said, they will be helping us really augment our project management, change management, contract management, almost run a quality assurance for this project for the county.
Okay, we looked at this last week, and then there's the next item is also related, enterprise resource planning system contracts.
Yeah,
Maybe highlight for us the difference between these items.
It's complementary to each other, Commissioner. The item 6A is, again, to secure the services from GFOA to implement item 6B. So it is concurrent and related, both items. If you like, I can walk you through item 6B.
Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. So item 6B is related to the enterprise resource planning system, also known as the ERP. So Thurston County is currently using outdated systems to support the core financial and payroll functions. The current software system has been in place for almost over 20 years, and they're in a dire need of replacement. In 2016, the Board of County Commissioners authorized the Information Technology Department to begin the process to modernize county enterprise systems, which include the financial and payroll systems. In 2018, a stakeholders group was assembled with the help of GFOA staff, which included the county auditor, human resources budget office, to identify the financial payroll functions and start finding as to what will be the business needs that we need to implement and incorporate into a request for proposals. In July 2019, the Board of County Commissioners approved the Information Technology Department to host and advertise a request for proposals for the replacement of this system. The result of that process is for you to consider awarding the contract to Oracle Systems for $1,840,284 to Sierra Cedar for $3,925,000. And for assets work, for $705,240. All this amounts to $6,470,524 and includes a 5-year term. And the funding, as you may recall, is through the general obligation bonds in order to fund those systems. You may ask, since in July 2019, they issued a request for proposals, and now you see it here in 2021. We took a pause in 2020 due to the pandemic, and it was late in the year until we'll start revisiting the whole process. And finally, we have a contract for you to consider today. Dennis, Robin, any additional information?
Commissioner Mejia.
I think this is a topic we've discussed quite a bit, so no, I do not have any questions at this time.
Commissioner Edwards?
I don't have any questions either. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 7, Public Works Contract Award for Solid Waste Facilities SCADA System Upgrade.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, is to award the contract for the solid waste facilities supervisory control and data acquisition, also SCADA, to Northwest Electronics LLC of Woodland, Washington. On April 9, 2021, a total of 3 bids were received for construction of the supervisory control and data acquisition systems. And those 3 bids were received in response to the call for bids. Those proposals were reviewed, and the low bid was received by Northwest Electric LLC of Woodland, Washington, with a bid of $1,015,746.73. The request for you today is for you to consider awarding this contract to Northwest Electric for a total amount of $1,117,321, which includes a 10% contingency. I believe Don Ashton is here from Public Works, if you have any questions.
Commissioners, questions on this item?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, me neither. Don, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8, County Manager description, a letter of intent for the atrium 3000 Pacific Avenue.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. This item we reviewed last week. And for your consideration is to authorize the county manager to sign a letter of intent with the owner of the atrium. That is the building located on 3000 Pacific Avenue Southwest, Pacific Avenue in Olympia. This is the result of what we used to call Plan B, absent of having a new courthouse in front of the voters, which the board took that out last April 2020. And also authorized and asked the county manager to come up with a proposal as to how we're going to be addressing the needs of the current space needs. That plan was presented to you, I believe, in March. We have a series of discussions, including a financial plan as to how this could materialize, and the board authorized, the majority of the board authorized to move forward on implementing this plan, which includes this building. For you is a letter of intent that includes the description of the building, the premises, the use, the lease commencement, which is scheduled for February 1st, 2022. It has an initial lease of 7 years, or 84 months with option of renewal. And the reason as to why we don't have a lease document right now, because we need to define later in the year some of in more detail, the terms and conditions of the lease, but at least this provides an umbrella as to how we need to pursue this particular option. On the operating expenses, Commissioner Menser asked what is included on the actual $8.50. Attached in your packet is a description of what we call as the triple net. is the additional cost that we, in addition to the lease. So on the first page, you have a summary of what items are included, and the total is $8.39 per square feet. And on the second page, gives you even more details. And let me walk you through what that includes, just for the viewing public. Under the property management includes administration, property taxes, insurance, property managers' fees. The maintenance contract, which includes fire, life safety, backflow testing, elevator maintenance, monitoring, HVAC maintenance, janitorial services and supply, landscape grounds, and sweeping and security. Also includes repairs and maintenance. There will be handyman services, HVAC operations, and other maintenance associated with this building. Utilities includes the electric and gas, garbage, irrigation, stormwater, water and sewer, and that totals $8.39 of the triple net. Is that the information that you were looking for, Commissioner Menzer?
Yes, my question had related to the language on item 7 of the letter of intent that had just singled out janitorial services for some reason, and I wanted to make clear that it wasn't, or clarify for myself that that wasn't
Okay.
the price for that service in isolation.
Maybe we can revise the language to make it clear based on the information provided.
Or, yeah, I mean, simply, which includes among other services or among other items.
We'll revise that. Another change, any questions on that?
I don't hear.
No,
Go ahead.
I have no other questions on that.
So
Okay,
another change on the document that I presented to you last week, it was related to the parking and availability of parking that, on the facilities. I presented to you last week, and it was based on the feedback that we received from the owner. There was 330 available parking stalls on the facility, including the parking lot across the street. Last week, when this item was discussed, I did ask the owner to make sure they confirm that, in fact, what is the number of parking stalls that we have on this facility. He responded back, and what we have is 276 stalls available total. That includes the parking lot across the street. Now, you may ask if this is adequate for those facilities. So let me give you additional perspective on this. The number of employees who will be affected by this move is 280 employees. And how that is available, we don't provide parking for every single employee here at the courthouse. So that's number one. Secondly, when we were reviewing the Thurston County Courthouse project way back when, the consultant made a parking analysis as to how much we will need in terms of, he splits on administration, courts, and everything else. So in this particular spreadsheet of that report, he includes the current need. And that's what we're trying to address, is the current need. Because this move, it will not be addressing the year 2030 or year 2045 needs, because that's not part of this process, I believe. It really addresses the current needs. In this particular analysis, the current need for the administrative offices, this is mainly what is moving to this 3,000 building, identifies 65 parking stalls that we need to reserve for the public. And also in this analysis, the administrative offices for staff identifies 195. So taking that into account to address the current needs, if you add the 65 for the public and 195 to compensate for employees parking, including the fleet vehicles, we have a total, based on this analysis the consultant did, of the existing needs of 260 parking stalls. So I believe based on that analysis, we have enough parking in this particular facility to meet our needs. In addition, Pacific Avenue has service for IT, is a more robust services that we have here at the courthouse. So they will provide additional opportunities for employees to travel there. Anyways, I just want to stop there. Want to make sure that, that you catch that change on the letter of intent. And if you have any questions on this item.
Commissioner Mejia, questions on this?
With those with the parking, does that include the county vehicles that need to be parked there along with, employee parking on top of that?
Yeah, the 195 that I mentioned on that analysis include the fleet vehicles. Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess my follow-up to that question would be how many fleet vehicles?
I
Parked here
believe
at the courthouse.
mainly the assessor, I believe, has probably 15. And that will be the main need, maybe a couple more vehicles. I'll say probably less than 20 overall.
Doesn't the assessor have county vehicles? I'm sorry to speak out of turn.
Yeah, the assessor is the one that has the majority of the vehicles, the fleet. And then we have maybe a couple more from the commissioner's office, 2 more, and another. So less than 20 probably.
Okay.
Fleet vehicles that will move.
Robin?
There are also the ones that go with the CPED staff though, so
Is it
probably closer to 30.
Okay.
So we're going to have about half the parking that we have here for the employees and the public, is that it?
Oh, no.
No, we don't provide parking for employees here at the courthouse.
We don't provide parking? We over by the Red Lion area?
Yeah, the red line, yeah. No, I was talking, sorry, about the courthouse. So,
Well, so we're going to have absolutely no expansion ability, so no growth over the next 7-year period if we were to maintain that facility for the full 7 years, and I guess we would if we were obligated, if we sign up for 7 years. I think we're stuck for 7 years. Yeah. And the ingress and egress at that auxiliary parking area over there, there's a lot to be questioned about that. I suppose we're going to make some adjustments in that regard because I see an ongoing traffic jam that I can't imagine the city of Olympia is going to be too thrilled about, or the employees over there at Transit Authority. But anyway, I mean, I've expressed my point of view on this, that I think it's a premature decision on our part at this point in time. But the democratic process, I guess, will prevail.
Okay, any other questions before we move on? Hearing none. The last items for today will be the standing items. We have a Board of Health meeting at 3:30. Do we want to go straight to Board of Health then? I guess we should. Versus next week's agenda for the Board of County Commissioners.
Either way, Commissioner, we can
All
provide.
right, let's go in order then.
Okay.
Board of Health will commence at 3:30. We will have approval, consideration of the agenda and meeting minutes from April 13th. We'll have a proclamation / presentation. Okay, so okay, I get it. There's 2 items here. One is a proclamation regarding Nurses Week in Thurston County. And Director Shelley Slaughter is with us.
Yes. Good morning again, Commissioners. Shelley Slaughter, Director of Thurston County Public Health and Social Services and Administrator of your Board of Health. This first item is a proclamation requesting that the Board of Health proclaim May 6th through 12th as Nurses Week here in Thurston County. Nurses Week is celebrated annually throughout the world, culminating on May 12th, which is Florence Nightingale's birthday. So that will be celebrated tomorrow We would really like to honor and recognize all of the nurses in our community, especially our own Thurston County Public Health and Social Services nurses that have sacrificed so much over this last year during the pandemic and work so hard every single day to take such good care of our community. We also want to recognize all of the nurses on the front line that have worked in hospitals, long-term care facilities, healthcare clinics, and visiting nurses that sacrifice every day, and again, deserve for all of us to thank and recognize them. And we will be having nurses from Thurston County Public Health join in on the Zoom today to hear your proclamation.
Questions from the board on this?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Item 2, or sorry, the second item under item 2 is a presentation, sounds like, regarding Thurston County health rankings for 2021.
Yes, each year the University of Wisconsin Public Health Institute and Robert Wood Johnson Foundation release information about community health in counties throughout the country. This year, Thurston County ranks 8th healthiest among all counties in Washington State, and our own senior epidemiologist, Marianne O'Gara, will be providing a presentation, information, and overview of this year's county health rankings, areas in which Thurston County ranks better than Washington State and other counties, and areas of which we need to improve our community health. And Marianne is here if you have any questions for her about this presentation.
Questions from the board?
No, sir.
No, sir. I don't have that item on my agenda. So is the agenda getting updated? Am I missing it?
Item,
Okay. It's just too different. It's just all stuck together.
Is there a reason why it's under presentations, Shelley, rather than under department items?
That would be a question for our clerk of the board, Amy. She placed that item there. We're happy to move it or revise it if you would like.
Amy, do you mind to move that down? I know the title is proclamations and presentations, but I usually think of that as presenting something to someone, not just presenting information to the board.
Yeah, that can be updated.
Okay, thank you. So we put that after the proclamation for Nurses Week, we will have an opportunity for the public to address the board. Then we can have as the first item, the health rankings is fine, just to go in order. And then the second item then would be emergency ordinance amending Article 4 of this, I think there's a missing of there, of the sanitary code. Go ahead, Shelley.
Thank you. Yes, this item is to ask the board to approve an ordinance amending Article 4 of our sanitary code to extend the expiration dates of on-site sewage systems repairs, installation applications, and permits to September 30th as a result of the COVID-19 emergency. And Art Starry, our Environmental Health Division Director, will present this item, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia.
No, sir.
Or, yeah, Commissioner Edwards.
No, sir.
Okay, me neither. Thank you, Art. Item 5, see if that's 4, 5, okay. Item 5, the numbering, Amy, also after 5, there's 2 5s basically. So update the numbering there. But item 5 will be PHSS Lakes Monitoring Programs.
This will be a presentation by Jane Mountjoy Benning, who will cover and provide a presentation regarding our lakes monitoring program. And again, Environmental Health Director Art Starry is here to answer any questions that you may have about this presentation.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards, anything for Art?
For Art or Jane?
Is Jane with us today?
Jane is not with
Jane is tied up working with some staff on something, so I'm covering for her as best I can.
Okay. Do we have a cost associated with this activity that the county undertakes?
I can get that for you. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Yeah, okay, maybe for this afternoon or something. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Vice Chair Mejia.
No, sir, no questions.
Okay. Can you, just for everyone's clarity, Shelley, can you sort of restate the scope of what Jane's presentation is covering? We've gotten so many lake discussions bandying about over the last couple of months. I want to make sure we're clear of what we're discussing today.
Yes, absolutely. Art, would you like to provide that overview?
Sure. In case anybody's wondering, I'm Art Starry, the Environmental Health Director for Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. And what we're doing is providing an overview of the lake monitoring programs that Environmental Health Division oversees or undertakes. And so we have long-term monitoring that takes place on lakes for water quality. And this is to evaluate long-term trends to see how things are changing. So there's some examples we'll provide, but it has to do with measuring water clarity, certain nutrients, and other things that are in the lakes. So that we'll overview that. Talk a bit about toxic algae testing and follow up on that. That's a thing that comes up this time every year when, as people start to, you take advantage of the nice weather and go out and do fishing and swimming and things. And so we do have a program that follows up on toxic or algae complaints and evaluates whether or not toxic algae is present. And so we'll talk about the program we have and what people can do to stay informed on that. And then we also have swimming beach monitoring at a couple of sites. And so we're going to talk about that. So it's just an overview of the different activities that we undertake to monitor long-term trends, as well as to try to provide information so people can be safe when they go out and recreate on our lakes.
Okay.
Chair, could I have a question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Art, do you know, is Paula going to be participating in this from the road department? She works with Tim, I think, on the lake issues.
We did not ask Paula to participate in this because we were looking at the health department's lake monitoring activities. When you're talking about lake management through Public Works, that's a little bit different animal. So we weren't trying to cover that with this presentation.
I just thought it'd be kind of beneficial to have her at least be exposed to the health side of the equation.
So I can contact Paula and Tim and let them know about this and see if they're, in fact, I see Tim is here now. At least his name is on one of the screens. And so I can let them know about that or ask Tim to let Paula know. Also, we'll have Patrick Soderberg available. He is familiar with some different lake monitoring issues in case you have questions about that. But that really wasn't going to be the focus of this given the time we have. It's lake management's a pretty involved topic.
Commissioner, if you're thinking about, for Paula's benefit, I know Shelley has reminded me multiple times that Paula used to work for public health. Is that right, Shelley?
Yeah.
Am I remembering that right? So she probably knows exactly what's going on in terms of.
We trained her well before Tim stole her.
Yeah.
I guess my concern is we oftentimes run into conflicts between, say, planning and public health. One of the things is over sewer issues. But I like to have our employees be aware of everything the other folks are doing, if possible, that might affect their activity. That's all. That's the only concern I had, was that we make sure that we're all playing from the same sheet of music, so to speak.
Okay. Tim, anything you wanted to pipe in with?
Yeah, I would just add, Art and I have had some conversations about doing a joint briefing coming up soon to talk about lake management issues and where we do overlap and where we do not. So perhaps a conversation down the road. And Paula could likely be available for this as well if needed.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, at that point, we have our standing items of the Board of Health members' reports, the health officer's report, and Shelley's report, director's report. Anything you want to tell us, preview for us, Shelley?
We'll be providing additional information about our vaccination status here in Thurston County that we've covered at our Tuesday morning COVID-19 update, as well as other department highlights.
Okay. Anything else from the board before we wrap up the Board of Health review?
No, sir.
Okay. Then we've got some time. Let's go then to thank you, Shelley. Let's go to the May 18th agenda, which is item 4 on this morning's work session agenda. The meeting would be called to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Edwards. Consideration of the agenda and board meeting minutes from today's meeting. A presentation from Public Works, specifically a proclamation for National Public Works Week is first up.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. For your considerations, a proclamation. This is for proclaim the week of May 16th through May 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week. This in coordination with the state and with the state as well as at the national level. All the American Public Works Association sponsored this particular proclamation. On the normal circumstances, Public Works has many different events to celebrate Public Works Week, but considering the pandemic, this proclamation I think is something for you to consider. I believe Public Works staff will be present next week, and that will give you, the board, the opportunity to thank all those Public Works employees for the activities they do on a daily basis. I believe Scott Lindblom, our county engineer, is here to further elaborate on this proclamation.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Scott Lindblom, county engineer. Thank you for your time this morning. So what the county manager brings up is our annual celebration of Public Works Week. And just to put it into perspective, since 1960, the American Public Works Association has been celebrating this week with the more than 30,000 members across the United States and Canada to really energize and educate the public on the importance of public works in our daily lives every single day, whether it's the planning, the building, managing, and operating. These activities are really the heart of our community, whether it's, again, the roads, the water, sewer, stormwater, parks, solid waste. We kind of touch it all, and this is an opportunity for us to really recognize all those 200 plus folks that support our community every week.
Question for Scott?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Very good. Thank you, Scott.
Great, thank you.
Okay, after our proclamation, we'll have an opportunity for the public to address the board. County manager's update.
I will follow up with any updates depending on the public testimony you might receive today.
Okay. The consent items A through F. 3A is emergency services item. Sub-recipient agreement for fiscal year 2019 Homeland Security grant funding with Black Lake McLean Fire Department.
Thank you, Commissioners. As a matter of background, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security provides funds to support state and local efforts to prevent terrorism and other catastrophic events, and to prevent the nation from threats and hazards that pose a great risk to the security of the country. Thurston County Emergency Management is the coordinating agency for the Homeland Security Region 3, which includes the counties of cities and tribes of Grace Harbor, Lewis, Mason, Pacific, and Thurston counties. This particular item was reviewed by the Thurston County Emergency Management Council, and the subrecipient agreement is a pass-through to the McLean Black Lake Fire Department, and is for $14,500 to support costs of the Regional Special Operations Rescue Team, also known as SORT. And this particular agreement will go from January 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2021. And the next item is similar for the same purpose. The amount is different. And it's the reason for why we have two different items. One, item 3A is for the fiscal year 2019. And item 3B is for the fiscal year 2018. Since two different fiscal years, we need to have two different agreements for the same purpose. 3A is $14,500, and 3B is $20,000, and it's for the same time period. And again, it's for the same purpose, the Special Operations Rescue Rescue Team, and this is for the McLean Black Lake Fire District. Any questions?
Yes, I do, but I see Commissioner Mejia does as well.
Why is it 2 years back, and why is 2020 not included in it?
I think Sonia is here. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Commissioners. Romero, Sonia Cruz, Emergency Management Coordinator. And I'm sorry, could I get the questions again?
Why is it like, well, I think it would be 3 years, right? No, we're not in 2020 anymore, but why is it 2018, 2019 coming now, and why isn't 2020 included?
So currently we're spending it out of the FY17, FY18, and FY19 grants. We haven't even started spending on FY20 yet. That's just how the grants with the state work. They're back 1 to 3 years. And because of COVID, we've got extensions on the 18 and 19 grants. So we actually have until 2022 to spend them.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards. Oh, sorry, Robin, did you have something on that point?
I was just going to note that it's common for federal awards to spend over 3 years. So it's not at all surprising to see that we're receiving money from these federal fiscal years for us to spend now.
But we are, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
But we are spending it for 2021 activities, are we?
Yes, current activities. It's the years are the federal years in which Congress appropriated the money.
I mean, just so the public isn't too confused on this topic, is there any way we can at least make mention that we're spending it for current activities, at least? Just something like that?
Certainly put that in.
We can definitely put that in.
Do you understand where I'm going with that? Would that clarify things a little better? The public has a hard time keeping track of what we're doing anyway, I believe, but.
Yeah, anything that provides clarification, yeah, certainly. What would you like to have, Commissioner?
Well, just some mention that this is money that's been authorized. It isn't coming out of our existing tax dollar budget. You say that it is pass-through money, basically, to be expended for current activities or something. Makes it sound like we're missing the boat there. I just trying to clarify. I don't have a specific recommendation.
Would you like to add the time period for this agreement that goes from January 1st, 2021 through, will that?
I think it'd make it clearer.
Okay, we'll add the length of that agreement then.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. Seems like that we've covered A and B there.
Yes, sir.
So let's go to C, which is an appointment to the Planning Commission.
Yeah, I believe that is the direction of the board that I receive for you to consider appointing Mr. Kevin Passenger to the Planning Commission as a District 1 at-large member for the term of June 1st, 2021 through June 1st, 2027.
Okay, it's Commissioner Mejia's nomination. Any questions on this? Hearing none. The next item probably the next two are connected, but let's look at item D. Auditor resolution reclassifying positions, O2R 71 and 76.
Yeah, you heard the county auditor. She is continually working as to how she needs to address the needs of her office. And this first two items is one of the first steps for your consideration is to reclassify a position from accounting analyst to a financial analyst in the Thurston County pay classification. In the next item is for you to consider reclassifying a business applications analyst to a business application administrator. Let me get the information for you. There is not requesting additional budget adjustment to this particular action and both. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to gather those questions and bring the answers to you next week.
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
Are these the issues that we talked about last week? And are there, if they are there expiration dates with them? Okay, we're just doing D now, I take it? Okay.
D and E are related, but those two items are not related to the discussion that you had last week related to the two temporary positions. Okay. Those two positions were authorized by the board last week during your board meeting. Those are new items.
Okay, so these are not ones.
Yeah, this is current staff. The auditor is looking for you to consider reclassifying.
And no expiration date with them?
No, because those are permanent positions, sir.
And then are both of them going to be members of 618?
I believe only the one on E. Yeah, the other one is not.
It says exempt. That's what I'm wondering, in parentheses. That's what I'm wondering. Why, if it's an exempt employee, would they be in 618? Just
because those are MTPs, and to make a long story short,
okay,
the union filed a petition 2-3 years ago. They wanted to incorporate additional positions into the union. That was approved by the state, and which included some MTPs, which are exempt. So that made it a little bit different type of situation that we're still trying to resolve how we're gonna be managing that. So, but good catch though, good catch. Because some of the requests included some of the, what we call exempt, the management positions, MTPs, they move into the union as a result of their petition.
Okay. So I'm questioning, is it an exempt position or not? And why is not the one up above categorized similar?
Because that's not a union position. But how about, I'll come back, I'll give you additional information next week.
Okay.
Will that work? So I'll provide additional clarification on that, and maybe Maria can come and provide a little more feedback on the petition the union had on absorbing positions into the union. Will that work?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're good on D and E then, for at least for today's purposes. F is the auditor's voucher list, which we'll review in the upcoming week. Brings us to our department items. Public Works is up first with a series of items. Number 1, 4A, is amendment number 2 to the interlocal agreement between Thurston County and the Confederated Tribes of the Chehalis Reservation. Tim Wilson.
Yeah, thank you. For your consideration is an amendment number 2 with the already interlocal agreement that we have with the Chehalis tribe. And this particular item is related to the development. The Chehalis tribe is having And what they call Eagle 1 is at the intersection of Highway 99 and Highway 12, where the hotel is currently located. If you have visited recently, they also have a restaurant and distillery. The restaurant is already operating, and that's the Talking Cedar Brewery and Distillery. And that opened back in 2020. Understanding that perhaps the next phase will be the production of the distillery and brewery as part of their development. At that point, we didn't have an understanding as to how much water and sewer that will be generated by those two activities. So this particular amendment established a little bit of an understanding as to how much what we call is the equivalent residential units, REUs, will be charging to the tribe. And that is based on the 36 REUs for water and 36 REUs for sewer, with the understanding that that is a baseline that may not be on the long term. Also, this agreement provides that by July 2025, we will be assessing the actual consumption of the water and sewer by those two big productions, the distillery and brewery. And at that point, we'll start charging us based on the historical rate of that consumption. That is really in gist of this amendment number 2. And Tim is here to add additional information and provide additional perspective.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tim Wilson, Water Resources Manager, Public Works. Fantastic summary of what we're bringing before you next week. This is a government-to-government negotiated compromise, a very unique development down there, as Ramiro discussed, in that we have a building that has a restaurant, has a brewery, has a distillery, has public event space. It didn't fall very clearly into one of the 22 categories that is currently in our code for commercial buildings. As we were considering ERUs and the appropriate charge for this, there was a very wide range of where the actual numbers could fall. So we were able to negotiate this agreement with the tribe. It allows for collection of a baseline general facility charge, which will allow for us to fund capacity, and then for us to collect those true numbers, metered numbers, 60 months from the agreement date. And that way we'll have true numbers for those costs.
Any questions for Tim? Commissioner Mejia?
No, sir, not at this time.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. Didn't we just recently discuss changing something about the ERUs in the last couple of weeks?
Yes, we certainly did. We had a briefing on some proposed code updates that we will now be going out to receive public comment on. One of the issues within those code updates, one of the things we're working to resolve is the issue of fitting all developments within the categories that are in code. As I mentioned, we have 22 categories that range from car wash to restaurant to, neat little boxes for commercial properties, and they don't always fit. So the code updates would allow us to use industry standards to be able to go out and look beyond Thurston County for buildings that compare, or developments that compare, and apply those to these types of situations. So yes,
a follow-up on that is, quite a few years back, the new sewer system down in Rochester was constantly in the red, and there was a capacity issue that we weren't meeting, to put it in the black, I guess is the best, simplest way I can put it. Now, what is our capacity once we get everything hooked up here? Because we've had the water park down there as well, right?
Yeah, there are certainly, there's items on our capital facility plan to address capacity in the future, additional wells, additional sewer treatment capacity. While we're good for the immediate future, there's work to do as far as establishing long-term capacity. So we already have some items on the CFP, and we are updating our water system plans as we speak. And I think we've spoke already with the board about that, and we'll continue to have those conversations as that moves forward. We're hoping to have our water and sewer system plan updates completed by early next year.
And we do have adequate capacity now to do whatever you're proposing here. Is that right?
Yes, we do.
And when I say adequate capacity, can other businesses still hook up? That's as we move into the future.
Yes, to the degree that any foreseeable commercial developments could hook up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
It's 10:27. I'm gonna propose we take a break to 10:40, reconvene with item 4B under the May 18th agenda, which is item 5.
Thank you,
Break
sir.
for 12 minutes.
12 minutes, thank you. In 3, 2, 1, go ahead, sir.
Okay, we're back for the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session, 10:42 a.m. Before we pick up with the May 18th agenda, there's a new proposal for an addition to this afternoon's agenda, and I'm going to let the county manager outline that for us.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. It just came to our attention, the American Rescue Plan allocation to Thurston County became a reality yesterday. And we need to take steps in order to accept the money. As you may recall, there is going to be 2 allocations. I believe the first allocation is close to $27 million thereabouts. And the second allocation will be 12 months after we accept that. So there is a couple of steps that we need to take, one of which is for you to consider authorizing me to secure the money and bind the county to accept the money and proceed with the implementation of the funding. Robin, you'd like to add additional information on that?
Yes, thank you. So the specific language is that we must name an authorized representative who would then have the legal authority to bind the government. So what I am suggesting is an action this afternoon, and I have language for that action being printed for you right now, but basically it says, move to accept the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds in the amount of $28,216,606 and designate the county manager as the authorized representative for Thurston County. So it's a simple action for a lot of money.
Where will this go into the agenda? Will it go under the end county number 8, an additional item under county manager?
That is my suggestion, yes.
Okay. Questions for Ramiro or Robin? Commissioner Mejia.
It's just exciting. I feel we've been talking about this pot of money for so long, and it's actually finally here. So that's good news.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I'd like to hear from legal counsel that everything is ready to roll, legal, we're doing everything right.
Elizabeth, are you there?
Yep. Elizabeth, are you there? So maybe we're taking a break.
Go back to that.
This is the similar action the county took when we accepted the CRF funding last year. Commissioner, is a requirement by the federal government to agree on their terms.
I have to say I'm not questioning either county manager, the assistant, or the county manager. I'm only looking for assurance that we're doing it right, because it's my understanding on other issues that involve legal counsel, it does help us. I don't know, if something wasn't right, if we've had legal counsel telling us it was right, we have certain protections that are built in for the board members. And don't ask me for a legal breakdown of that, just that I think it behooves us to always inquire of counsel whenever we're doing something that especially is spur of the moment. And I am not uncomfortable with doing this. I just want to make sure that we're doing it right. That's all. That's my only question.
Okay, well, we'll circle back when we have Elizabeth available. Let's move then back to our May 18th agenda review. We were at 4B under Public Works. And this is a resolution and call for sealed bids for the, I never know if it's Latigo or Latigo. Latigo Latigo Street Southeast and Chehalis Western Trail at Spurgeon Creek project.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. For your proposal is to replace culverts on Spurgeon's Creek, along, I'm going to give you the other version, Latigo Street Southeast and this Chehalis Western Trail. This particular project is related to the fish barrier culvert replacement. This is the fish barrier enhancement program the board has authorized. And the particular project will replace on Latigo Street 2 42-inch culverts with a 57-foot prefabricated bridge. And on the trail crossing, it will replace 2 48-inch culverts with a 90-foot prefabricated bridge. The cost of this is covered by the real estate excise tax RE 2, as well as Public Works has secured a grant of $1.7 million from the Brian Abbott Fish Barrier Removal Board for this project. And I believe that has been always the intent for the board to allocate real estate tax to funds with the option to secure additional funding from grants. And this is a good example of that strategy. Marcus Storbeck is here from Public Works, if you have any questions.
Commissioner Mejia?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Romero, you said for this project, there's a $1.7 million grant.
Uh-huh.
Are there any matchbacks that the county has to put any matchback for that?
Yeah, the real estate excise too. We expect the overall total cost of the project will be about $2 million. So I believe the $400,000 will come from RE 2. Is that correct, Marcus?
300,000.
300,000. Thank you. Yeah,
Yep.
my math was off. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. I have nothing either, so thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Let's look at 4C, resolution and call for sealed bids for the Gate Road Southwest Culvert Replacements Project.
Yeah, similar to the previous, this is as part of the county's fish barrier, fish passage enhancement program. In this particular contract, we replace culverts on Gate Road and at Baker Creek and the tributary to Maima Creek. The Baker Creek crossing will replace 2 30-inch culverts with a 28-foot prefabricated bridge. And the Maima Creek tributary crossing will replace 1 18-inch culvert with an 8-foot precast concrete culvert. This project is going to be, I believe, solely funded by real estate excise tax too, RE 2. And the approximate construction cost is $1.1 million. Ryan Blazer is here to answer any questions.
Questions from the board on this?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Is this also a fish replacement?
Yes, sir. It's part of the fish passage enhancement program.
And I guess I'm curious, how come we weren't able to secure outside money and just use seed money to do this particular project?
That's a good question. I'll actually bring in Marcus on that one. He was more involved in the beginning stages of this project. Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Marcus Storvik, civil engineer with Thurston County Public Works. We are actually in the process of trying to secure a grant for this to help pay for the structures that we've already purchased. So it's going to be a reimbursement. So we're currently waiting to hear back on another RCO grant for this.
So if we're just going to go out for a bid now, we're not obligating 1.1 at this point in time, right? Okay.
Correct. This is to call for sealed bids.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Our fourth item under Public Works is to set a public hearing for a development agreement with Kaufman Holdings Incorporated. Teresa Parsons is present.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. Let me take you back. Not too long ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, when you authorized a interlocal agreement with the Chehalis tribe, where the Chehalis tribe is going to contribute funding to build a runabout at Sargent Road and Highway 12. At that point, I mentioned to you there has been a long conversation as to how we can bring different partners to help us build this infrastructure. They will really not only addresses the needs of transportation needs in the area by building this runabout, but also provide access to some of properties on the north end as well as the south end. They can go ahead and help development of those properties. Has been a long conversation in this case is with the Kaufman Holdings. They have properties on the north side of this intersection. And one of the means and methods as to how we secure funding from a particular developer is through traffic impact fees. And the traffic impact fees are designed and identified after a proposed development is in place, so we know the actual usage, and then we apply those fees. In this particular case, the Kaufman Holdings, they do not have a specific development in mind yet. They have an idea, but they have not submitted a proposal yet. So the way we can probably fast forward as to how they can contribute to the construction of this particular project is through what we call a development agreement. And this development agreement really established somewhat of a baseline as to how those potential impact fees will be, and they will reimburse the county when the time of construction of this project is at that point. So in order for you to agree on a development agreement, perhaps, or is for you to hold a public hearing. So this item is for you to consider setting the public hearing for June 8, 2021 at 3:30 in the afternoon. And again, this is the other component of how we're going to be able to fund this particular intersection. The Chehalis tribe, the private developers, in this case is the Kaufman Holdings, we'll continue to work with DOT to continue to support this particular project. I believe there might be an opportunity coming up. And also the county is contributing to real estate excise tax to the remainder. Teresa?
Yes, I don't have much to add other than this agreement also allows vesting of current land use codes associated with the arterial commercial zone for 10 years. And that's a benefit to the Kaufmans.
Commissioner Mejia?
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. This agreement that we're going to enter into, and then we would be paid back at a future date, is that the 10 years you're talking about? We have 10 years to collect on that?
No, they will agree to pay for
upfront.
Upfront. And this agreement says that they'll give us the money by the end of the year because we're going to be constructing next year, and that'll give us the construction funding. In exchange, they also will be allowed to vest in the current land use development codes for the next 10 years. It doesn't affect health and safety or certain types codes, but as far as the land use that's associated with arterial commercial, they will be allowed to abide by that current code for 10 years.
Is there, does the county have any coverage, I guess? We're going to make an investment here along, I think, with the tribe. So the dollar amount that this private entity would be contributing, is there any kind of guarantee that goes along with that? Or might we be stuck holding the bag if the economy goes upside down all of a sudden or something like that? That's what I'm concerned about.
Well, if they don't pay, then they don't get the vesting, which is a benefit to them. And they also, we don't have sufficient funds set aside to build the roundabout. And this is an important key intersection for their marketing of their property. So it's in their best interest to get it built. So, I mean, they could back out. They're not likely to.
If they did back out, Teresa, could the project be put on hold until a
Yes.
future date? Okay.
Yeah, we would have to take a step back and see what other sources of funding we could tap into to get it built. And it would likely push the construction out.
Okay, thank you.
So we would have presumably a chance to review this agreement, proposed agreement prior to the public hearing on the 8th.
I believe it was attached, but I can send it again if you
Yeah,
want.
we'll make a copy for you to review, Commissioners. But again, this item for you is to consider setting a public hearing for June 8, 2021 at 3 in the afternoon.
Thank you. Item 5 is Superior Court toxicology contract with Cordant Healthcare Solutions.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Let me get additional information. Yeah, on February 19, 2021, Superior Court received proposals as a result of the board issuing the request for proposals, and they received 3 proposals. One from Conrad Healthcare Solutions, and one for Aver Health, and the other one for Pharmatech. So the result of that proposal for your consideration is to award the contracts to the Cordon Healthcare Solutions for the amount of $150,000. And that will be from April 1st, 2021 to April 30, 2022. The particular contract provides toxicology services to all Thurston County Superior Court programs, as well as District Court, Mental Health Veterans Court, and Pretrial Services Division program. All toxicology services provided through this contract will be reimbursed in fee, and they will be billed to the different departments for individual services. Sabrina Craig from Drug Court is here to answer any question.
Commissioner Mejia.
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards.
And the dollar amount comes from?
Is a reimbursement and a basis, and that will be billed to the individual departments who may be using those services.
Okay. Out of their individual budgets. Then.
Yeah, that is correct, sir.
Thank you.
Sabrina, this name is very familiar. This is the current, isn't this the current provider under the previous contract? Cordant.
Yes, Commissioner, that is true. We had a scoring rubric, and actually they came in with the lowest pricing and the best customer service and menu of services when we looked at all of the proposals. Yes, they are the incumbent bidder.
The incumbent, yeah. Okay.
They're also local. They're the local bidder as well. I mean, they're in Washington State, where the other labs were out of state.
Pierce County, if I remember right. Is that right or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Looks like we're good to go there. We will then review board commissioner reports, and the county manager will review our schedule, and we will adjourn. And that takes care of next Tuesday's agenda review. That brings us to proclamations and awards, item 6 on today's agenda.
Good morning, Amy Davis. There are 2 proclamations included in your packet. The first, National Police Week, will be included on your agenda for today with your concurrence. Representatives from the Sheriff's Office will be here to accept it. The second is for Public Works Week for presentation at next week's meeting, and Public Works staff will be here to accept that presentation.
Okay, anything for Amy on that? Let's move to advisory boards and commissions.
There are
Oh,
no
I'm sorry, Robin had her hand up.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was just asking your leave to exit this meeting and participate on the NACO call.
Okay, thank you. Yep, please.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Amy. We're on advisory boards and commissions.
Sure. There are no applications for review at this time. However, I'd like to clarify your direction on Juanita McClure's application for reappointment to the Ag Advisory Committee and whether you'd like that item held off or included on today's agenda.
Yeah, I believe Commissioner Mejia would like to have this item be a department item as opposed to the consent agenda. I just wanted to clarify when you would like to have that conversation.
I think it was Commissioner Edwards who requested to have it postponed, so.
I have to say, I mean, on this particular issue, you know, this county talks a lot about equity and diversity. And here we've got a black woman, a military veteran, military officer, very active in her community, has been attempting to stay active. And it looks to me like the Ag Advisory Committee is in full support of this position. And I don't care when we do it, if we put on the consent or if we vote on it, but I am very much in favor of, through the explanation of the Ag Committee, of voting in favor of putting her on that advisory commission, on that advisory board.
I do have my questions in regards to the letter that we received today. I went through the videos, and from the meetings that I've attended, this was not something, this reappointment was not something that the membership voted on. And from talking to some of the members, again, this was not something that they remember voting on either this year. So one member does not speak for the whole Agriculture Advisory Committee, I believe, if it's something that the whole membership hasn't really voted on.
Do we want to ask that committee to take this up as an issue to advise us, because we're in question for several reasons possibly, and get clarification from them? That would be, I guess I would move or suggest that we send this back to committee and see what they have to say.
I'm ready to move forward with this. I'm ready to vote. I don't know how Commissioner Menzer feels about this.
Well, I guess it would be an easier decision for me if there weren't open seats on the advisory committee. I mean, if there were if it was a full committee and there were applicants, I got conflicting information about the attendance issue that Commissioner Mejia raised. I think we all got a communication, and then I sent a follow-up asking for clarification because I couldn't square the representation that there was not a problem with attendance. Commissioner Mejia said that the board had actually, or the committee had actually was beginning to take action for removal based on non-attendance. When the first communication said from the chair said it was a excused absence. Well, it's excused absence, you know, that didn't make sense to me. He clarified that there was some problem with the email address and they were able to work it out and figure out what the situation was. And now they're happy with this person's performance. So taking that clarification in combination with the fact that there are open seats, I guess I'm more willing to give some latitude for additional input. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but I guess I would support Commissioner Edwards' request for input from the committee if Commissioner Mejia is saying that that what we got today was not representative of the whole committee, but just maybe one member or the chair or something. I mean, if this person is functioning and they like the person's work on the committee and there are open seats, I'm not looking to further reduce their, volunteer participation level when there aren't other applicants who may be more able or more available applicants waiting. I guess that's the dynamic for me. Is I have a lot of concerns, but given that there's 2 open seats, and if we don't remake this reappointment, it sounds like there'll be 3 open seats, and we have no pending applicants. If the board can convince me that they all believe this person is a valuable member, then I would probably be willing to support it. So I guess I'm going to agree with Commissioner Edwards. Let's ask the Agriculture Advisory Committee for their formal opinion on this. They don't have to give it, I don't think. I don't think they're obligated to, but if they want to do that, I'm willing to hear it.
Okay, I am happy to pass on the request to the committee.
And we won't have this on, obviously for today.
Right. So I will ask Amy to reach out the staff member for the Agricultural Committee and making sure that this item is on their agenda, next meeting's agenda, so they can formally, as the board, can take a position to support or not this particular appointment.
Okay, thank you. Is that it for advisory boards and commissions, Amy?
Yes.
Okay. Then we will go to item 8, PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. On April 28th, I provided an overview of the communications plan to the Regional Housing Council and received positive feedback on the proposed activities. The team, which includes myself, Keely Marino, and Tom Webster for Thurston County, along with representatives from Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, and Yelm, will begin moving forward with the activities indicated in the plan. The intent of this plan, which runs through the end of this year, is to establish the identity of the Regional Housing Council and introduce the council to the community. We are coordinating with Public Works communications staff on outreach activities surrounding Public Works Week, which is next week, to include a county news story, an article in the Friday 5, and social media posts. So that's ongoing work with Public Works. And then lastly, our social media accounts are continuing to perform very well, and we are steadily gaining followers. This includes subscribers to our Friday 5 newsletter. This is great news and continues to be an important tool for our work. Brian compiles a weekly social media report, so if any of you are interested in some of the data, I'm happy to send that to you. Pending any questions, that's what I have.
Questions for Megan?
No questions.
No questions, sir.
No. Okay, thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Legislative update. County Manager.
Yeah, thank you. Attached in your packet is just, I believe, the final report on the different bills that you have been tracking. The governor had a long session yesterday, signing a lot of bills, and some of those are included in this report. I am not going to be walking you through each one of them. This is just to let you know, this will be the last report for this year related to the legislative session, unless something comes up. And this might be a good informational tool for you if you become aware of any issues related to this particular bills. That's all I had really for you on that.
Any questions on the legislative update?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Then we will go to item 10, briefing, public hearing, decisions pending.
There is none pending, sir.
Okay. Item 11 is commissioner items. There are 5 identified. Number 1 is the proposed annexation for the city of Lacey, specifically Capital City Estates and Chambers Estates. Follow up.
Yeah, this is a follow-up conversation that you already had related to the proposed annexation by the city of Lacey. That includes the Capital golf course areas, as well as the additional area called as Chamber Estates. I provided to you last week with maps as to how this relates to the UGAs. and you would like to have continued conversation related to this particular annexation. You have provided you have received public feedback last week during your board meeting. You received a public testimony from some of the residents, one of the residents from the Chamber's states, outlining his position that they do not want to be annexed as part of this particular proposal. Some of the obstacles, the issues related to this particular matter, if the board will decide to, invoke the jurisdiction and ask the Boundary Review Board to exclude the Chamber states, that will clearly create an island in the county. And I believe the intent of the board has been, the last 2, 3, 4 years, is to eliminate islands to the best of our abilities through the annexation process. During the conversation last week, you requested to have additional perspective as to how the overall process of annexation was. So we secure the knowledge of Jeremy Davis. He used to be the actual clerk of the Boundary Review Board until he got a new job here in the county and created a conflict of interest. So now the clerk of the services for the Boundary Review Board are provided Thurston Regional Planning Council, TRPC. But certainly Jeremy is the in-house expert to this annexation process, and he has provided to you a document that is included in your packet. And with further ado, Jeremy, walking us through your memo.
Well, I might jump in real quick if I may.
Sorry.
It's okay. You hit it right in the head there, County Manager. We are lucky to have Jeremy Davis on board. He has experience in the annexation process and procedures. And as the County Manager relayed in a previous conversation on this topic, much of what we're discussing today is procedural. That state law has, in effect, different avenues for jurisdictions to engage in the annexation process. And so I think that it's a really great opportunity to have Jeremy kind of walk us through some of those steps, but recognizing the county's role in this is going to be important, specifically as we move into the Lacey annexation request. But now, sorry for the interruption. Without further ado, Jeremy, take it away.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeremy Davis with Community Planning and Economic Development. So just some more background information on the Boundary Review Board. I'm going to start right at the very beginning of it. What the Boundary Review Board is, it is a independent quasi-judicial decision-making body established to resolve disputes on proposed annexations within various counties in Washington State. And I believe there's 15 counties who still have Boundary Review Boards. The membership of the Boundary Review Board includes appointments by, one by the county, one by the mayors within the county, 2 by the governor of the state of Washington, and 1 that is nominated by the special purpose districts within Thurston County and then appointed by the Boundary Review Board. And as County Manager Chavez and Director Cummings indicated, the TRPC currently has the clerk of the Boundary Review Board under their employment. So first off, the last time the county requested review by the Boundary Review Board was back in 2019 with the Stillicum Road and Marvin annexation, and that included the Rack and Ostrand's mushroom farm and several other areas. I went back and reviewed the county's letter to the Boundary Review Board requesting review at that time. And in that letter, we indicated that the county had asked for an increase in the annexation area to create a more regular boundary. In addition, we indicated we believe that the additional area would further the inclusion within the city of Lacey, its urban growth area as envisioned by its current local comprehensive plan and the Growth Management Act. So with the current pending issue with the city of Lacey with their annexation, just to hit on a few highlights that will factor into what I'm going to tell you a little bit later, is that the area proposed to be annexed by the city of Lacey for Capital City and Chambers Estates is bounded on the north, east, and south sides by the city of Lacey, and then on the west side by the city of Olympia unincorporated urban growth area. Vehicular access to the annexation area is provided wholly through the city of Lacey via Yelm Highway Southeast, Ruddle Road Southeast, 66th Avenue, and Rainier Road. The provision of sewer and water services in the proposed annexation area are provided by the city of Lacey, and I believe they're providing sewer services to Capital City, and then water services to both Chambers, Estates, and Capital City. As County Manager Chavez indicated, a request for review is due to the Boundary Review Board by June 4th. If the BRB does not receive a request for review, the annexation is considered automatically approved under state law. So how does the Boundary Review Board make its decision? Actually, wait, first I want to cover who may request a review by the Boundary Review Board, because this is important both for us and both for the citizens who are looking at annexations or being annexed. The county or any governmental unit affected by an annexation may request review. In addition to that, a petition filed by 5% of the registered voters residing within an area to be annexed, owners of property consisting of 5% of the assessed valuation, and with the concurrence of the Boundary Review Board, a petition of 5% of the registered voters who live within 1/4 mile of the proposed action or annexed area, but do not live within the jurisdiction of the proposing action. So those last three items are actions that citizens can take on their own via the clerk of the Boundary Review Board to request review by the Boundary Review Board, outside of a county request for review. Boundary Review Board decisions are bound in state law, and that they shall attempt to achieve objectives that are outlined in state law. Those objectives, and I believe this is what Commissioner Menser was referring to last week during the discussion, and these objectives include preservation of natural neighborhoods, using physical boundaries, creation and preservation of logical service areas. So those are municipal service areas like water and sewer and police services, and the prevention of abnormally irregular boundaries and adjustment of impractical boundaries. So there are other objectives in state law. I didn't include those because they're not really pertinent to a city annexation. In addition, when Boundary Review Boards are making their decision, they have to consider different factors such as population and territory, those municipal service areas, local comprehensive plans and development regulations, and other items that are normally related to how cities operate and counties operate. Now, one important note for the county commissioners today in deciding to request review is that when the Boundary Review Board renders its decision, state law does not allow it to modify or deny a proposed annexation unless there is evidence on the record to support a conclusion that the action is inconsistent with one or more of the objectives stated in state law for the Boundary Review Board. And they also must make written findings based on the record. Now, in past annexation actions where we've requested for review, we do two things. One, we send a letter to the Boundary Review Board requesting review. And then two, for the Boundary Review Board public hearing, county staff prepares findings of fact and evidence for the record for the Boundary Review Board to render its decision. So those are two items that we actually provide as a county. So again, the Boundary Review Board would not be able to modify or deny a proposed annexation without findings in the record, based on evidence in the record, that they cannot meet those, or that the proposed annexation as modified would be consistent with those objectives, I should say. Sorry. And so with that, are there any questions on Boundary Review Board decisions, or do I need to go into greater detail on any items?
Commissioner Mejia?
I don't have any questions right now. Would like to hear any other questions from other commissioners.
Yeah, Commissioner Edwards?
I have questions, but I don't know if they're for Jamie or additional discussion. My concern about this is the fairness issue. And you mentioned one thing, Jamie, and that was sewer hookup. And apparently both of these groups get water, but only one of them is being given the ability to have unencumbered sewer hookup or free of charge, possibly, sewer hookup. And so that seems like it becomes a fairness issue. And I think the reason that that took place is I think they're being lumped in to one entity, one group, if you will, when in reality they are two separate communities. And one of them obviously wants to go in because they're getting a carrot. The other one feels that they're going to be drug in and they get the stick. So I don't think it's fair on that particular issue. I am curious, is there a dollar amount difference that the county will receive into the general fund from property taxes or such versus it'll transfer over to the city of Lacey? So is that even part of the equation? And if so, what's the dollar amount? If not, I guess it doesn't matter.
So Jeremy, maybe let's take the first comment question. If you could reread the items that are pertinent in terms of the annexation process.
Sure, absolutely. So the area proposed to be annexed is bounded on the north, east, and south sides by the city of Lacey, and on the west side by the City of Olympia Urban Growth Area, and that is, I believe, the Indian Summer Golf Club. Vehicular access to the proposed annexation area is wholly provided through the City of Lacey by Yelm Highway Southeast, Ruddle Road Southeast, 66th Avenue Southeast, and Rainier Road Southeast. And I went back and looked at the map, and the City of Lacey has annexed the entire right-of-way for those surrounding streets. The area proposed to be annexed is also currently, I believe, served by City of Lacey Water, and is also in their sewer service area. So sewer could be provided at some time in the future, which would be decided by the City of Lacey. And I believe that the provision of sewer service in the Capital City Golf Club, at least for right now, is ongoing. And they're currently constructing that.
So the objectives, Jeremy.
And so with the objectives, when the Boundary Review Board is making a decision, they have to attempt to achieve the following objectives when making their decisions. And one is preserving natural neighborhoods. Two is using physical boundaries in deciding what the boundaries of annexation would be. Three is creation and preservation of logical municipal service areas. And four is prevention of abnormally irregular boundaries and adjustment of impractical boundaries.
And so I think if I'm hearing you correctly, even if the board decided to invoke jurisdiction on this annexation, the Boundary Review Board would likely not be able to do anything different than what's currently proposed.
That would be my assumption in the current instance, sir.
Mr. Mejia, go ahead.
I have a question in regards to services and also, I guess, if it's a county, then the sheriff would be also serving that place too. So would that increase a price in the services, especially if they're like on, to the county? Would it increase the price if maybe Public Works or maybe the sheriff has to go to that specific area? I'm not sure if I'm clear on my question. I'm just trying to see in terms of the services the county provides, if it would be an increase in price if we're just serving that specific area. That instead of like the, yeah.
Intuitively, yes, because if it's left as an island, the sheriff's office will have to respond by traveling, within the city and perhaps within eventually the City of Olympia as well. And also Public Works will have to do the same. So intuitively, you're absolutely on point, Commissioner. It will be an increased cost of providing services to this island that will remain.
And to answer Commissioner Edwards' second question, if the board directs invocation of jurisdiction, that's when we would do those calculations in terms of the service reduction versus the revenue lost. But our presumption at this point is that it would potentially be a net gain in terms of reduction of service cost to the county. But again, that's preliminary, and we'll get the details on that if the board directs us to.
Jeremy, when you mentioned the five, I think what I heard you say is that the citizens themselves could, so let me state what I think I heard you say and tell me if I got it right. So in this case, Capital City is like 400 homes and Chambers Estates like 47 homes. So let's just say 10%. if the citizens of Chambers Estates, as they're telling me, pretty much across the board don't want annexation, they could all sign a petition. They would be 10% of the total annexation, and that 10% would be more than 5%, and they'd be able to trigger their own boundary review board review, separate from, like, the county could say, we don't think that there's anywhere to go, but they could separately get the same review that we would get by invoking jurisdiction, so to speak, on their own?
That's my understanding, sir. Of course, there are different metrics for each of those 5%, and let me just review them again really quick. So one of the petition methods is that 5% of the registered voters living within the area to be annexed, so not number of property owners, but voters, and then 5% of the assessed valuation. So it's not the number of properties, it's how much do each of those areas cost. So the citizens would have to look at the assessed valuations in Chambers Estates and see whether or not it meets that 5% threshold. And they would have to go to the assessor's office to validate that and then turn their petition into the clerk of the Boundary Review Board requesting review.
Do they have the same deadline for that of June 4th?
Yes, sir. They have the same June 4th deadline.
And just so we're all following along on the same page, this is on the memo that Jeremy provided you on the second page under the heading, Who May Request Boundary Review Board Review, RCW 36.93.100. That's those 4 bullets.
Okay, my memo only has 1 page.
Yeah, I only have 1 page too.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry. We'll make copies, sorry. We just made a copy of the first page.
Okay.
We'll make copies. Our copy machine is broken.
Okay.
On top of everything.
Would it be helpful to share the screen?
Oh, that'll be great, yeah. I also have that memo if you have it handy, Jeremy.
Oh, Josh beat me to it, it looks like.
There you go. You can use them in on the page 2 on the you were describing, please.
Yeah, I see that.
Can you use them the document, zoom in?
Working on it.
There you go. Yeah, that's right there. For the viewing public, can you just read the 4 bullet points again?
Yes, sir. So the county or any governmental unit affected by the annexation may request review by the Boundary Review Board. So that would also include the special purpose districts in Thurston County. In this instance, it would be an affected fire district. A petition may be filed by 5% of the registered voters residing within the area to be annexed. And then owners of property consisting of 5% of the assessed valuation in the annexation area. And then with the concurrence of the Boundary Review Board on a petition of 5% of the registered voters who live within 1/4 mile of the proposed annexation, but do not live within the city of Lacey.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. So in terms of let's say if the residents decided to request a Boundary Review Board review, how do they go, how can they do that?
They would need to contact the chief clerk for the Boundary Review Board, who currently works for Thurston Regional Planning Council. And that's Katrina Van Every at TRPC. And I know that her contact information was also on the notice of intention for the annexation. And we can get that for citizens, of course, upon request.
Thank you.
And that needs to be done before June 4th.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is the date to keep in mind.
Chair, I have another question.
Go ahead.
You can stop sharing your screen, Josh.
I'll do that. Before, I wanted to just add the contact, www.trpc.org.
Mr. Edwards.
I agree. There is apparently a way for the community that is objecting. But knowing the bureaucratic process of government and the reality of them being able to hastily put this together, I think it behooves us to recognize their concern that they're getting a dirty deal and go ahead with that vote of following what they recommended, that they are getting a dirty deal, and until they get treated properly. And had this been done properly, but it sounds like talking with the folks over there at Chambers Estates, throwing in the COVID thing and remote access to meetings and who testified, and apparently the vice president, I believe he said that they only got credit for one person stepping forward to object to this out of the 48 residents, I guess, that live there. And really that person was representing all 48 is my understanding, or close to that. I don't know if it's the exact number. Anyway, I think they got a raw deal, and I don't think government should take advantage of folks over sleight of hand operations. And I don't see that they have enough time to put together a defense at this point in time. So I'm going to be supporting that community in asking for or voting against that annexation, if that's what it means, because I don't think the two should be included. I would definitely vote for the one for Capital City Estates, but I'm not inclined to vote for Chambers Estates because I think they got a bum deal.
I don't see, when Lacey took it's not like the annexation automatically comes with sewer hookup. Lacey took the unusual step of working out a deal with their own public works budget and working with Lot to create a program to get those folks hooked up. So when they do something, they go out of their way to spend a lot of money and do something good for the community, and now it's seen as a dirty deal. I don't understand that logic whatsoever. You know, when you live in the urban growth, I live in the urban growth area boundary of Olympia. That by definition, you are subject to annexation at the appropriate time from the municipality. And if we invoke jurisdiction under the criteria under state law that Jeremy laid out, the Boundary Review Board is not going to create an island. This is not even just an inlet, which we often call islands. This would be a completely surrounded island. And for us to pander to this one community who doesn't want to be annexed, when we know it's inconsistent with our own agreement with Lacey about annexation, inconsistent with policies we've taken on annexations vis-a-vis Lacey, inconsistent with state law and how the Boundary Review Board operates, I think is poor policy and not warranted by these facts. Ramiro, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I feel compelled, since we're talking about a sister or jurisdiction, the city of Lacey, I feel compelled to state that they have taken the right steps according to the law. And so I don't think it's fair to have those conversations on other jurisdictions that perhaps they have deviated from the law, and they have taken the right steps to submit this proposed annexation. Whether the public testimony was 1 or 10, I cannot attest to that, but I can attest that in fact they have taken those right steps according to the law, and that is the attestation that I have from the city manager from Lacey. So I just want to make sure that today we don't have a conversation related to whether the city of Lacey has deviated from legal process, which I believe they haven't. So the decision before you is really whether you like to invoke your jurisdiction to exclude this particular area. And that is probably the direction that I will ask for the board at this point.
Chair, could I comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess you do make a very good argument for moving forward. The problem that I see is that this is government taking advantage, and I want to say it's unfair advantage of a small group that they were very aware of that did not want to move forward with this process. But had they approached this differently, maybe that group would have went along with this. I might point out this thing was put in place, I think, in the late 50s, this community, and that was well before growth management. And it was a couple miles to town. Okay, so now Lacey has expanded out there. All I'm saying is because of the fairness issue, it is two separate issues. And if I don't believe I'm pandering to a small group. I am recognizing their concerns, and you'll find my history is in most cases, I am all about fairness and sticking up for the citizens, not necessarily sticking up for the bureaucracy or government, even though they might have technically followed the legal process. I'm not here to stick up for legal process that takes advantage of citizens. And that
But
can
there are citizens that have to pay, their tax dollars now have to pay for county services within a completely municipal island. I mean, there's reasons why these principles are in place. If you don't like the principles, then that's a different issue. But we've been talking about using our annexation policy to avoid islands the whole time I've been on the board. And there's reasons for that. That benefits citizens who pay their taxes and want government to work in a orderly fashion and not just because, I mean, if we just went by when communities wanted to be annexed, we'd have a patchwork of islands all over the entire North County. But we've laid out, I mean, we couldn't possibly do annexations in the way that you're proposing. Or else we would have exactly what we've been trying to avoid, which is a patchwork of islands.
Well, just because the government says doesn't make it right. And that's kind of what I'm hanging my hat on. Is it right? Is it fair for these individuals to be given the stick and other individuals to be given the carrot? Had Lacey approached them, gave them the same hookup ability, you get a free hookup to the sewer, we're not going to ding you. And I don't see where it's going to cost additional money for the county. It's going to cost the same that we've been providing them all along, the same service. I can speak for law enforcement. I don't think in 30 years or better, I ever responded to anything in that one development of 48 homes. I certainly did over to the golf course many times. So I don't think it's going to be additional costs. It's just going to be the same cost. And those folks will be paying into the coffers the same. So I think the cost is going to stay pretty static at this point. And I'm just going to opt for fairness. I'm all about doing the right thing and fairness. Now, you can talk about the right thing being following the letter of the law, but I believe if all things are equal, the right thing is to stick up for citizens when they've been given a bum deal. So I'm just going to end that at that point. Thank you.
Okay. Well, just one last response is that if we invoke jurisdiction here, I mean, it's from what Jeremy said, from what I understood from Scott Spence and the officials at Lacey I've talked to, and my understanding of the law, there's virtually zero chance that it's going to have the result that Chambers Estates wants. And so we know that, and for us to stick up for them, knowing the futility of that, is just wasting resources and process in order to look good. When I use the word pander, that's what I meant. I mean, when we know we're not going to be able to achieve the result they want, there's no point in sticking up for them, given the legal construct in which we operate, because that result's just not achievable under this process. It's not the Board of County Commissioners' decision whether or not to approve this annexation. Commissioner Mejia, you've heard a lot of back and forth. What do you have?
For me,
I can't hear you.
For me, it really does come back to you know, I understand that the Chamber's estate community is frustrated. I do understand, you know, the reasoning for not wanting to be annexed. But at the same time, I also understand that the county has been in this long fight with Lacey about not leaving islands on the UGA because of how it affects the county and the resources that they do that. And, you know, I believe in standing up for the Chamber's community, but I also believe for standing up for the rest of the constituents that we represent. And that is, how can we effectively use the funds and be sure that we're using them correctly and we're spending them correctly. And I believe it would be a rise in services, not only for our public works department, but also for our sheriff's department and for any other services that the county offers specifically for that community. And, you know, I believe that we need to follow the law, and there is options for them. I just don't see how the county can say one thing at one point, but then say another thing in one point. It just seems flip-floppy of us. It seems like we're, you know, we can't stick to what we want. You know, we do one thing one time and then say another thing another time. And
Chair, could I make one more comment, sir?
If Commissioner Mejia is done.
yes, I'm done.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I was the only one here, I guess, when we put that policy in place about the islands. It had everything to do with revenue. At the time, a prior board had allowed and encouraged Lacey to annex all the revenue properties all along Martin Way and I-5, all the way out to where Home Depot and Costco and Walmart, all the properties except one had been annexed that produced revenue. And Lacey intentionally hopscotched over all of the properties that you could say were a drain on county budget. And those were the residences all through there. That was where the problem lied, was they took all the revenue and didn't take the total package. And that's what the island resistance was about, was if you're gonna take the revenue, take the whole thing. And we see that today when we look at all the way along Martin Way, and there's housing areas and trailer parks and other activities that take a drain on the system, and the revenue all goes to the city of Lacey. The only reprieve we're getting now is the sales tax revenue. Because of COVID, people are now shopping at home, and the tax goes to the jurisdiction where they live. So we're getting some reprieve, but it was never necessarily about the service as much as it was about the revenue issue. And that's the difference and why it looks like we're being inconsistent. I don't believe that we are inconsistent. I think there's a excellent boundary was one of the points that was brought up by Jeremy. And I think that's Rainier Road. I don't even think there's a crosswalk between Chambers Estates and the Capital City Estates. So, I mean, they're different as day and night. And it's just a raw deal to force these people into it. I would say, is it a guarantee that the Boundary Review Board will grant their exception or our exception if we were to vote that way? No, it's not. But at least that community knows we've at least listened to them, we've discussed it, we share their concerns, and if the Boundary Review Board does what it does, and it sounds like we're hearing they're going to do a certain thing regardless of what we do, at least let them know that we care about their position. That's why I'm going to be opposed to this.
Okay.
So, yeah, at this point, I will ask the board. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have one question really quick, Ramiro. I mean, if we were to go, and I apologize for interrupting, but if we were to go and say, okay, we're going to take this to the boundary review, do we have to provide a reason onto why we are choosing not to do this? Is there, you know, under the legal side of it, is there a reason that we have to be like, we would like this area not annexed for reason A, B, and C?
Most likely, the letter will have to include a reasoning behind as to why the board would like to invoke jurisdiction to exclude the area. And just to give you an example, when they invoked the last time the board invoked jurisdiction on the Steilacoom Marvin Road, it was related to specific what Commissioner Edwards was stating, don't leave behind those areas. So we expanded the boundaries at that point, a part of the request. So to answer your question, yes, it will be, you invoke jurisdiction for a reason. So at that point, what will the reason be? We'll have to explore that for you. So
they don't want to.
What?
I mean, that's the reason, that's the only reason. And I don't think that's one of the reasons that we can cite. It's gonna hold, we can cite anything we want, but I don't think that's gonna hold any sway with the Boundary Review Board. Am I wrong, Jeremy?
Yes, sir. The Boundary Review Board will be bound to make a decision based on the objectives in state law, and make findings of fact and be able to cite evidence on the record. So we as a county would need to provide evidence as part of the hearing process that the proposed change or the proposed annexation does not meet the review objectives, and how our alternative annexation boundary does meet those objectives.
And saying that part of the annexed area got sewer hookup, I don't see how that fits in either.
Chair.
Would that fit under, well, I have a question for Jeremy. Would that fit under any of the criteria, the argument that we oppose this annexation because a portion of the annexed area is getting a sewer hookup and a portion is not?
Well, the Boundary Review Board would look at the actual sewer and water service areas
availability
that are in the City of Lacey's plans.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
I guess one group is getting a freebie and the others are going to get a $20,000 bill to hook up. So what's fair about that? It's all about fair and what's right. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I think that's an adequate reason to put down on a letter just saying they weren't treated fairly. And we can point out why. That's all.
Okay, so at this point, I will ask the board to give direction whether you'd like to invoke jurisdiction.
I would like to invoke jurisdiction because of the fairness.
I don't see a legal basis to invoke jurisdiction, so.
Commissioner Mejia.
I don't, yeah, you know, I have one more question. You mentioned that there were objectives that we had to match under the state law. Do you know what those objectives are that we can use? And is there anything that would qualify Chambers Estates to have something to show to the review board?
Yes, ma'am. So the objectives that I noted, I highlighted in the second page of the memo under Boundary Review Board decisions. And those are objectives the Boundary Board has to attempt to meet. And those are actually outlined in state law in RCW 3693-180. And we would have to provide evidence on the record that the preservation of natural neighborhoods will be better enhanced by our proposed boundary, that we are using more appropriate physical boundaries for our annexation area, such as Rainier Road, or our annexation, our proposed boundary would be a creation of preservation of logical service areas. And in this instance, we're talking about logical service areas for sewer, water, police, and other municipal services within the City of Lacey urban growth area. And then our proposal would lead to the prevention of abnormally irregular boundaries and adjustment of impractical boundaries. And then that decision making, the Boundary Review Board usually seeks to reduce unincorporated county peninsulas and islands on those irregular boundaries. And so the proposed annexation, should it be modified, I believe would leave an unincorporated county island within or peninsula within the city of Lacey urban growth area if the Chambers Estates neighborhood were to be excluded.
Chair.
It's not a peninsula because the Olympia urban growth area completes the complete island.
Right.
It would be islanded from any contiguous county.
Chair, I'd like to point out one other thing. Under Boundary Review Board decisions, there's also, in an enclosed comma, the cost and adequacy of governmental services, and that's where it talks about municipal services. And it's an unfair cost to the one group, and if you go out and talk to people about sewer hookups, boy, some of them are atrocious. I just throw out $20,000 because that's not out of line that it might cost those other folks. One group's getting it for free. One group is going to have to pay. If there was an agreement in there that they would hook up the cost, the city would treat those people all the same, you wouldn't be hearing this argument from me. But I think it's a very serious issue, and these people are being treated unfairly. That's.
So on the
Is
question.
it possible for me to request more time, or does this need to be a decision made now?
Yeah, that's, if you want more time, that's up to the board, how you like to.
I can make a decision by next week if that's okay with the rest of the board members.
It's okay with me.
Yeah, I mean, the board has to vote to invoke jurisdiction. I'm voting not to invoke jurisdiction, so it's not making a decision is essentially making a decision. If there's a second vote to invoke jurisdiction, we have till June 4th, and the board could change its mind at any point.
Okay. I'd like to give Commissioner Mejia more time, if that's what she wants. Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we don't have to give.
So when would you like me to bring this back, Commissioner Mejia?
Next week is fine, thank you.
Okay, I'll bring this back again next week. Thank you.
And I'd like to offer that CPED remains available to any questions that the commissioners have on this topic, and we will serve at the direction of the board.
Chair, could I ask the director a question, please?
Sure.
Josh, is there any chance that you could ask Lacey if they would be willing to put a memorandum of understanding in this annexation that would give these people free hookup or whatever, so we end up treating everybody fair?
If the board directs a communication to the city.
Is that okay if we ask Lacey that question?
What's the question specifically?
Would Lacey be willing to give these folks a letter as part of this annexation agreement that they would get free hookup of sewer as well?
No, I oppose that.
But what would it hurt to just ask them if they could treat another separate group with the same fairness? That's all.
Because I don't see that it's about fairness for all the reasons I've already articulated.
Okay.
They were trying to protect a water source, and they made the unusual and incredibly expensive step of getting these folks hooked up to protect their water source. They're not in the business of hooking every single person up. I mean, eventually they will, but I know how much, because I sat on the lot side of it, and we gave them a break, 50% break on their connections to try to make the dollars work and try to get them to be able to do this to protect water. They're not going to have the capacity to just, I mean, I'm sure that to me, it's disrespectful to their staff and their own, annexation strategy to imply that I don't want to imply that we think they gave a dirty deal or tricked a neighborhood because they took the unusual step of protecting water and paying for some folks to hook up to sewer. So I oppose that. I mean, you can make that phone call, Commissioner, but I oppose the board taking that step.
And also, Commissioner, with that question, I don't think it will be appropriate for the county to negotiate, because the question will be a negotiation of city services in a potential area. And I don't think it will be appropriate for the county to do so. but that's just my perspective.
I don't think it's, I mean, I've spoken to the vice president of the homeowners association, and it's really not about the sewer connection. I mean, that's just kind of they don't want to be part of Lacey. That's really it. They said they'd be happy to be part of Olympia if Olympia would annex them. They just don't want to be part of Lacey, but they're in the Lacey UGA. And the whole sewer thing was kind of an afterthought in terms of the conversation that I had. You know, they're like, well, if we got a carrot with it, it might ease the pain. I get that, but it's not the driving force behind their opposition. Their opposition is they don't want to be part of Lacey. They don't like Lacey. They're willing to be part of the Olympia because they're right next to Olympia as well on their western border. They're happy to stay with the county. They have an airstrip. They're afraid Lacey will take it away from them. It really, it's not about the sewer.
Okay, so I will bring this item for your decision next week.
Okay. That brings us to item 2, Thurston County Fair.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. There's 2 items for your consideration today. One, you will hear from staff is the recommendations from the Fair Board related to the 2021 County Fair event. And item number 2 is really to give you perspective as to a potential project that may materialize as a result of the board investing $250,000 on as you may recall, a signature project at the fairgrounds. You will hear two elements, some recommendations again on the 2021 County Fair event, and then introducing the concept of this project, signature project at the fairgrounds. And just to bring the board to a level of understanding, knowing that perhaps related to this project, we need to come back with the board with specifics in terms of cost and the details related to the scope of work. With that in mind, Josh and Teresa is with us as well.
Hello, board. Still Joshua Cummings, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. And with us is Teresa Reed. Teresa serves kind of a dual role. She is a part-time county employee as the Thurston Fairgrounds Coordinator, Fair Coordinator, excuse me. And then also, Teresa has been a long-serving member of the Fair Board. And so to tackle the first topic first, whether or not to have a fair, Teresa has shepherded a conversation through the Fair Board just recently to provide and receive a recommendation from the Fair Board on whether or not or what options are available to hold the 2021 fair event. And so if Teresa's ready, I'll just kick it right over to her.
Thank you. Hello, Commissioners. I'm Teresa Reed, the Thurston County Fair Event Coordinator. After meeting with the Fair Board, we came up with 3 options for the 2021 fair. The first option would be a full but modified fair that would incorporate all of the governor's COVID-19 guidelines. It would include a carnival and vendors in the public. The cost to this option is high, and return on the financial investment is rather low on that option. 4-H youth would not be able to participate based on the fact that 4-H guidelines are stricter than that of the governor's and would not allow them to participate in an event with the public. The second option would be just a youth participant fair. This fair would not be open to the public. It would not have a carnival or vendors. It would simply allow for 4-H, FFA, and the county youth to show their animals and their still life. Some of it may be virtual, some of it may be in person, but we would be able to meet the guidelines set up by 4-H, and the cost to this is minimal. And then the third option would be to have no event at all. And this would include no fair, no youth participation fair, and of course that would not have any cost at all. The Fair Board unanimously voted to recommend to the commissioners the second option of a youth participant fair only, which would allow all of the youth in the county to show their animals in still life in different ways that would meet all the criteria with the governor's COVID-19 guidelines, as well as the 4-H guidelines.
questions for Teresa about these options? Commissioner Mejia?
I'll miss the scones, but I do agree with the fair on this. You know, I know a lot of youth work really hard on their animals all throughout the year, and you know, last year, unfortunately, it was they couldn't do that, and so I am in full agreement with option 2. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess, Teresa, on option 2, providing we went ahead with this proposal to generate revenue that's been put together, we wouldn't be able to start on that until after that, what is it, the first week in August, if we went with option 2. It wouldn't keep us from doing this other proposal, would it?
Well, option 2, we could do that currently. We wouldn't have to wait till August. It would just, that would be the entire totality of the fair, would be just the youth showing. And again, it wouldn't include public, and it wouldn't include the fair vendors, et cetera. But that would meet the guidelines set forth by 4-H to allow all the youth to participate.
Okay.
I think to answer your question, Commissioner, flexibility in terms of timing when the option 2 would occur, but also flexibility in terms of when the project is happening. So no, I don't think that it would interfere. We could still begin and everything would still be okay. Either way.
Okay.
Thank you, Josh. I didn't quite get that.
Great.
I'm with Commissioner Mejia on this.
Okay, I am as well.
Okay. And I will say that we will explore creative options on how we can still get the word out on the fair. Maybe like Teresa said, some virtual walk around with the camera from TCTV or something like that. But this isn't obviously our favorite option, but thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Whatever you can come up with to enhance the experience for the kids was, well, I mean, I think the board would support that 100%.
And also next year we'll come with a bang to have a double duty pancake breakfast.
That's right. We'll add something to it.
Yeah. The next item for you is the project proposal. This again is introducing the concept today, give you a high-level perspective of the project itself, and then knowingly that perhaps we're going to come back with additional, more in-depth briefing related to the cost and the actual schedule for this project. Teresa, I think you're it.
Teresa, would you like me to share the presentation for the screen?
That would be great. Thank you, Josh. This is the finalization of the presentation that we started when we were able to meet with each of you. And there we go. All right. Thank you, Josh. So this is the proposal for the $250,000 anchor money that we would look for building the project on the fairgrounds. The intent of the project would be to increase fair attendance and year-round attendance with revenues from events that we currently cannot hold on the fairgrounds. And it would also be a venue for events that currently there's not a space in the county to hold. The Fair Board has been engaged in this and the recommendation for this project. And this project would also be done in partnership with the Fair Foundation, which is a nonprofit foundation. The conversion of the Willow White Pavilion would be demolition of the 3 current buildings that were built between the 60s and the 70s, a food shack that was built in the 70s, and the demolition would be a total of 19,000 square feet. We're looking for the construction of a flexible covered use building that would be done in phases up to 23,000 square feet, that's metal sided, that would have roll-up bay doors, a dirt floor in the arena to begin with, and then we would finish that off with a concrete floor in another phase. So currently, as you can see there on the top left picture, there are the 3 barns that overlap each other to make one building.
There's the swine barn in the far distance that would be gone, as well as the food shack on the left. The other pictures are a concept building, the build at the Puyallup Fairgrounds, whereas we might not be able to have all the wood detailed, etc. It would be something with large bay doors, something that we could hold RV shows in, that we could use for a multi-purpose, not only including fair, but year-round, to make the fairgrounds a destination. And that we would share the costs between the county, which would have the anchor money for us to use as far as Washington State Fair grants, as well as for the Fair Foundation in their fundraising. And they also apply for grants. And currently those are available yearly. And thank you for your time. So that would be the proposed project that we seek approval for.
Okay. Ramiro, you're saying that we're not, we're going to make that decision at a later time?
Yeah, and we'll come back with additional information because I believe the board needs to understand the overall scope in terms of the schedule and the budget. I have a brief conversation with Josh and Teresa last week. So, and we're planning to come back to you with additional details related to this matter. So no decision is expected of you today.
Any questions from the board about the proposed project?
Yes.
Take a look. It's an area ripe for improvement.
Yeah, it's actually a great idea.
Commissioner Edwards, you got something?
I would just like to compliment Teresa and Josh and pass that on to the Fair Board, if you would, that I think this is a well thought out, timely investment that the county could make to produce a revenue stream to offset ongoing costs in the long run. So thank you very much for your work.
Thank you, Commissioner. I might deflect a little bit because this is really Teresa and the Fair Board. This is when one of your commissions is working at a high level. The Fair Board members and volunteers work really well together to come up with this proposal. So they appreciate your consideration.
Commissioner Mejia, anything?
No, just thank you. I appreciated Josh and Teresa took me out to the fairgrounds and kind of showed me in person what it would look like. And I think it's great. Thank you for all your work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing this come back. Thank you, Teresa.
Commissioner, for
yes,
your consideration, I know that we have an executive session. The executive session doesn't have a time sensitivity. I can always bring this item back next week if that is your, so just, I want to be mindful of your time.
Yep. Is Elizabeth online?
Yeah.
Is she?
Elizabeth?
We pull her forward.
Yes, I'm here.
Elizabeth, one thing I wanted to circle back, Commissioner Edwards had a question earlier about the action that we're taking to accept the American Recovery Plan money.
Yes.
And he wanted to make sure that he checked with you or the board checks with you about whether or not we're taking the right action today.
Yes, Robin and I have been communicating through email during this morning's meetings, and I have reviewed the information, and I think it's appropriate if the board chooses to apply and accept the money.
Commissioner Edwards, anything for Elizabeth?
No, I'm perfectly content with that. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay.
So
Elizabeth, yeah.
This executive session will schedule for next week, the PDC and the other item?
Just for my own availability, I will not be available next Tuesday. I'm on vacation next week, beginning Tuesday.
Okay, and a 2-week delay may not be a detriment because this is not a time sensitive. It was more information to the board, a reminder of the PDC guidelines.
Also, if anyone has questions at any time about that particular issue and before we get to talk about it, I'm happy to talk to any commissioner about any of these PDC issues.
Is that okay, commissioners?
I think as long as commissioners, that was kind of related to the medic one.
Right.
So if you get contacted to speak to the media or something, then check in with Elizabeth beforehand. And if that were to happen in the next 2 weeks, otherwise I think I'm fine on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. That's good with me.
Okay. Great. Well, then we'll adjourn for this morning, and we will be back in session at 2 p.m. for the regular board meeting.
Thank you, sir.